Jesus didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I am Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. Hey, we're back. You're here, and we're glad. Thanks for joining us. Happy holidays. Between now and the end, not sure when this will get posted, but we're just prior to 2025 Thanksgiving, and I'm starting to feel that joy. I'm looking forward to all that means. Certainly the birth of Christ at Christmas, the idea of getting family together. Then we'll roll into 2026. Looking forward to that too. But today we're thankful, as I said, that you've joined us. Make sure you like, you subscribe. We've got our our code on there. Go ahead. If you want to donate, get involved. We'd like that. But between now and then, our guest today, Rob Spaulding. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Tell the folks what you do, Rob, why you're with us today. Yeah, our program has taken place for the last 4 years at the Christian Center here in Anderson. What's your role?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know we have a podcast studio here, and it's done very well, and it's been very successful, and a lot of people don't even know that. So thanks for making that pitch. I'm the executive director of the Christian Center Rescue Mission. We are a emergency shelter for men. We can house up to about 70 men. We have the only soup kitchen in Madison County that serves people every single day of the week and every single day of the year. So we serve 3 meals a day, every day, 2 meals on Sunday. We have an organization we call the Elio Center, which is where our in-the-house neighbors can shower, launder their clothing. But more importantly, we build trust. We build opportunities for them to begin repairing and rebuilding their lives. And we use our collaboration of partnerships and others to do that. And then we have a women's shelter for women with children, again, the only one in our county, and it's called The Well.
Okay, let's go back. You were mentioning the meals you guys serve. What kind of a quantity are we talking about? A day, a week, a month, however you guys keep the count?
Yeah.
Let the folks know what kind of needs you're meeting.
Right. Well, we do it through several more channels than what people understand, but we primarily through our soup kitchen or our community dining room on Main Street here in Anderson. And we do about 10,000 meals a month. And a lot of that is
10,000 a month.
Yeah. And most of those meals are served through our dining room, but there are others where we get meals to go, and we do other things that allow us to serve people in a lot of capacities. That's the one thing that's very important to us. In our community, there are about 40 food pantries, but there's only one soup kitchen. And why that's important is a lot of people, whether they sleep in their they don't have utilities. They're sleeping in an abandoned house. They live on the street. They live in their car. They can't afford utilities. They don't have appliances. There's a lot of reasons why our community needs meals that are prepared and ready to serve when people walk in.
That's an incredible thing. Thanks for that on behalf of your entire organization. I'm sure the community greatly appreciates and it brings some peace and hope to people to know I can get a good warm meal tomorrow
every
just
single
by
day.
Showing up.
Yes, sir, every single day. And what's beautiful about that is the people preparing those meals are residents. And they're learning how to handle food safely, and they're learning so we're developing job skills while also providing meals to an awful lot of people.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the individuals you feed we would classify as homeless?
Sure. I would estimate, just based on a lot of anecdotal evidence, that probably 35 to 40% of the people we feed are actually working poor. So they use this they may have a home or they may have a place to live, but they use this as an opportunity to supplement what else they do. And for example, for years we had an elderly couple that used to come in for dinner every day. And in talking to them, this allowed being able to feed themselves at a community dining room, gave them the opportunity to not have to spread their medicine out, maybe take a half a dose or whatever. They were able to take their medicine and then also have a hot, healthy meal every day. So it supplements a lot of people like that.
I wonder how many people even think of that aspect of what you're doing, the way it frees that dollar for something not necessarily more worthy, but certainly highly needed to where it could be spent there instead of on today's lunch.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you mentioned you've got a male facility, got a female facility.
Mhm.
What kind of numbers are we talking about, Rob, with both of those?
Well, in our men's shelter, we're the only emergency men's shelter in our county. We can house up to 70, but in times of really inclement weather, we find space for more. We also use our buildings as warming centers, and so at night, on cold nights, we're able to house a significant number of people in our chapel, in our other facilities. So it's really important. And so the number that we're housing in one night could expand to 110, 120 people.
And I'm going to guess with today's needs, all the things going on with our government and our different, organizations that help provide, that need's only going to grow.
Yeah.
And as the season comes upon us more greatly, just like last week with the snow we had, now today's much nicer, but we know it's coming back.
Yeah,
folks.
winter's here.
Yeah.
So, and we just gear up differently. The people we serve the needs obviously change quite a bit, and there are a lot of those things that we have to factor into those services that we provide.
So, how many jobs would you say the Christian Center provides?
Well, one of the things that currently we employ about 20, 21 people, which is not a lot, but we also have the volunteers, the residents that work here. We never want to send the message that we're a flop house. What we want people to do is to be. There is a lot of dignity in work. There's a lot of dignity in being a part of something that's doing something good, and so we also create jobs. We've just recently hired. Our most recent hire was a former resident who's employed with us now. So we want to make sure we ask people all the time if they would hire our guys when they're ready. So we want to hire them ourselves whenever possible.
I'm going to guess none of this happens without the support of this community. Obviously, God at the top, but the trickle down, and we're all a part of that. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, we do believe, God is at the top. When we have a large picture of Jesus on the back wall of our dining room, and I always refer to, we have a picture of the boss with a spotlight on it. So yeah, I think there are quite a few people that are engaged in that. So what was the other part of the question?
I think that pretty well covered it right there. Where do you feel that perhaps you guys are falling short, or at least it's an area where you feel challenged to grow it or improve it?
Right. And I think this is also part of the previous question as well, and that is, how can the community help? And how can others help? And that's one place that it's a challenge. It's the resources. When you see your food costs go up on the shelf, our food costs have risen as well. There's nothing magical that happens with us. We have to buy food. We have to seek donations of food, seek donations of resources. And I think that's usually the greatest need for an organization like ours. When the delay came in the SNAP benefits, one of the things that we saw at dinner, and I went over and personally just sat in my truck and just did head counts and got out and met people and spoke to people. We saw a significant number of people, probably about a 40% increase. Now that the government is reopened and these benefits are beginning to flow again, we still believe that we're going to see that a big part of that increase is going to continue. Once again, because prices are high and rent is high, and people are once again trying to stretch that, so they're making access to resources like ours, and that's one place that we need donations of food, donations of financial resources, and things like that.
How do you go about making those donations? Should you be interested in doing it?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great question. For us, it's we have a website, thechristiancenter.org, and you can go there and make a donation online. We could put that money to use right away. You can mail a check to the Christian Center, P.O. Box 1216, Anderson 46015, Anderson, Indiana. And that's very valuable. Again, we're the only ones that provide a lot of these services in our county. So a lot of people depend on these services not closing or falling through. Food donations to 625 Main, which is where our dining room is, 625 Main, Anderson, Indiana. And so people that are hungry, we serve meals at 12 noon and 5 p.m. And I think we do breakfast at 7:30, which is usually something light. But yeah, we're making sure that a lot of people are fed, and we need help providing that.
I'm sure all the way through you need help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So our podcast, Faith in Your Recovery, we fall under the umbrella of all things recovery,
Mhm.
all things addiction. Of the people you serve, be it through housing, be it through meals, whatever other support you might give, do you have a guesstimate on the number of those you serve who struggle with some sort of substance abuse disorder?
Right. I think that number is probably somewhere between 30 and 50% in terms of based on the particular ministry that it is. But we serve about 2,000 men, women, and children every year, and people are absolutely stunned by that number. But when we look, we did an inventory probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we said, what is the head count walking through our doors? Through the dining room, how many people do we think we're serving? Individual people. How many people do you think access our Red Door Vintage store where they can get clothes and things like this at an affordable price? Who accesses that? Who comes to the Elio Center? Who is touched by when we like during the pandemic when we're sending meals to people who are shut-ins and things like that, and the number is pretty staggering. It's about 2,000, and so. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, that gives us
yeah.
a real close
Yeah.
count there. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, we've talked a lot about the Christian Center, your offerings, what you can provide,
Mhm.
your willingness to come alongside folks in so many ways. I want to know Rob Spaulding a little better. As we talked a little bit ago, number one, how long have you been involved here, Rob?
Yeah, I've worked here for 11 years, just over 11 years, and I remember in 2014 I came on board. I was a volunteer at first, and then I came on board for a while. I was kind of an interim. I was transitioning from I was a chief financial officer. I was transitioning from a position here in Anderson to something in Ohio, and at during that time, they let their director go and offered me the position. And once again, my background was accounting and finance, and one of the things I said was, I don't think that's for me. But prior to that, for 16 years, I led mission trips out to New York City to do street ministry, working with homeless people on the street in New York. And I met a gentleman. After turning this position down, I met a gentleman that was here. His name was Dave Nolan. And we sat on the curb one night and talked, and he had been a resident. At this time, I was the interim here, but I wasn't planning to work here or to stay. And he had been a resident years ago here, and then he was a resident while I was the interim, and he was talking about how things had changed for the better and all that. And it really got me thinking that, my wife and I, we have always talked and considered how do we give back to this community that raised us. And, we decided at the time maybe we give this a shot and just a year, just 2 years, get this thing turned around and get it back on a healthy footing and then go on and do something else. And that was 11 years ago. So, yeah.
So you're still at the helm.
Still here, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
And again, my background was a lot of other things. So, you never know where God's going to lead you, and God's going to, it's just interesting where in my journey, God put the right people in my sphere, but he closed some doors, he opened some doors, and it felt very organic as I kind of slid into this position.
I'm having trouble with the word slid, but I agree 100% with everything else. That's a semantic
Well,
obvious
I
thing.
just,
No,
you
I
know what,
get
I
it.
was able to, yeah, I
That's
mean,
because it was smooth.
it was smooth. It was,
Is how
and the
you
work was
slid it.
hard, but God really did create, along the way, He created some guideposts for me to understand that this was the path and this was the journey that He wanted me on. And He didn't. Things were not easy, but what we discovered was that because when I came on, the organization had been in significant financial trouble. They'd been in significant
So
issues, and
there's your skills coming to the top.
right, and it had actually gotten smaller because, see, as of now, I mean, this place had been open 70 years, and at that time they'd been open 60 years, give or take, and we it was getting smaller, and there was a lot of talk about we'll shut this down and we'll shut that down, and reduce it to a much, much smaller footprint. And instead of doing that, God just provided the wisdom and the access, and we have quadrupled in size in those 10 years. And we're just really proud of it. And God just was along the way.
What I'm not sure how to ask this. What ministry is it here at the Christian Center that you believe you're the most personally wrapped up in? Yeah, other than the guidance of being, here as a leader, what ministry is it that touches you the most, that
Yeah.
gives you the most personal pride in a proper way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't thought of it that way. I would say that our one of our Elio Center, I back in 2017, I'd met a young man. His name was Kevin. He lived under the Truman Bridge. And he came to me one day and he said, it was summer day. He said he was had an interview that for a job. And, I said, Kevin, when was the last time you showered? And he said about 5 weeks. You're not getting the job, Kevin. But what we did is we sent him up to our dorms. We got him showered. We got him some new clean clothes and everything to wear to his interview. But it really got me thinking about what are the missing pieces from living under a bridge to being in a home with a job and good mental health and all that, and addictions wrestled with. And when I got to think about that, I really began to think, we need to do something new. And so I reached out. I looked around. I thought, who's doing all these things, including a place to shower, a place to launder clothing, a place to meet with service providers, a place to do all these
We
things.
talk about wraparound services for individuals. What are these pieces that bring that puzzle together?
Right, because as we talk about lining up dominoes, and one of those dominoes to go from sleeping under a bridge to that better, safer, more productive life that we believe God calls for them. And all the missing dominoes were down at this end. And so I spent quite a bit of time, about 4 months, interviewing people, men and women who lived on the street, who were close to homeless or who were working poor. And we spent a lot of time. And I bought some. At the time, you could buy a $5 McDonald's gift card.
I remember that day.
So I bought a whole stack of them, and I said, "If you'll give me 5 minutes, I'll give you a $5 gift card to McDonald's." And of course, everybody talked, but some of those 5 minutes turned into 2 hours, as people would tell their stories and tell how they got here. And I just began kind of developing in my head and gathering lots and lots of information, lots of conversations, people's stories of how they became homeless or how they found themselves with their lives just in pieces. And so this was over a course of about 4 months. And then after that, not sure, I had lots of notes and lots of things, but one night I wake up about 2:00 in the morning, and I set up and I just, it was all flooding in my head. These are the things that you need to do. This is how you do it. Because there was no organization like this in Indiana. So we didn't have any footprints to walk in.
Understand.
And when we looked nationally, we couldn't find anything that wanted to do, because part of our concept was we're going to invite our partner organizations that do things well that we don't do. Right? So housing and employment and things like that. So we said, we're going to invite them in, and we're going to let them come in free of charge, because our goal is to move people out of homelessness. That's our goal. And if our partners can help us do it, they can come in here. They don't have to pay rent. They can just come in here and help us. And that was the concept. And so I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I just start writing notes. And I wrote Greek for mercy, ? Well, that word is Elios, which is what we named this at. Now, I'd never considered coming up with a Greek word, but it was in my spirit. I'm writing it down. I just believe that God was just directing all this, and we put all these together. And once again, we were the first that we know of in Indiana to have something that offers these kinds of ministries that are absolutely strategically designed to meet a person, to create an opportunity to build trust, and then to begin walking side by side with them out of whether it's addictions or mental health or a marriage or a life that has fallen apart, and walk with them into a better situation.
That's an incredible story, and I can relate in a couple of simple ways at a couple of those junctions. Number one, I began my not-for-profit career, my true, if you got it, share it kind of career back in about 2010 with what was called the McDonald's Veterans Gift Card Project.
Okay.
And we ended up giving out $5 McDonald's meal cards to every.
When you could get a meal for
back
$5,
when
yeah.
you could get it for $5. And we ended up getting cards and finances from all 50 states, 8 different foreign countries. We went to the 3 VA hospitals in Indiana, would give out a card, thank an individual for their service.
I love that.
Then ask them to tell us their story.
Yeah.
That was post-Vietnam. And of course, during Vietnam, nobody wanted your story. They didn't care if you were a veteran. And if they did, it didn't matter if they ran over you or not. Quite honestly, that's the way it was. I lived it.
It was a sad season for us as a nation.
It certainly was. Then, as we got into the A Better Life, Brianna's Hope, back in 2014, I came from a background much like you did. It did not give me direction toward the work I was going to be doing.
Right.
As you spoke of having been the chief financial officer. But I recall, as we got into it, calling strugglers together and talking to them instead of about them.
Oh, yeah.
Every organization talked about them.
Yeah.
At that time, there was no organization talking to them.
Right.
The question was simple. What do you need?
Right.
What can we do to make a difference?
And what's happening is the people who view themselves as experts, they point at a population and go, well, this is all you need. This is what you need. And everyone's got an answer. But then when you talk to them, you think there's so many subtleties in their lives. And there are so many things that make up their situation. And to be able to just approach them and go, well, this is what you need, and that's going to fix it all. It doesn't work that way. And like you said, with these men, you're building trust. You're building, you're building a relationship. And it's the keep coming back. It's the keep investing in somebody. It's the showing that they matter that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It was the idea that their honesty proved many of our incorrect ideas.
Yeah.
That they said, this is what we need to be heard.
Yeah.
We need to be understood or given a second chance.
Yeah.
And then boom, we were able to move forward with that to make some great strides.
Right.
And I think that's where we're at as a society. We've got so many facts, but we fail sometimes to speak to the individual who is a part of those facts.
Randy, 5 weeks ago, I did a thing, and you joined me. I did 24 hours on a bench.
Oh, that was an awesome experience.
It was a great experience, but 24 hours on a bench, so all night, and I had the numbers of people and complete strangers and stuff that just came and sat on the bench, and we live streamed, and we were there were 69 organizations total as part of our network of shelters throughout North America, and there were about 3,000, I think. But 69 of us did this, and we were one of only 2 in Indiana. But people that would just walk up, I said, hey, we're going to be doing this. Everyone's welcome. Just come up and sit down and challenge me. And And people would ask about what is your takeaway from that experience of having all these conversations? Some were service providers, some were advocates like yourself, some were people that were homeless men, homeless women, or unhoused, I should say, and people in all different levels of situations. I had somebody that I talked to that came up in their car. They slept in their car, and we chatted. But here's what I discovered, and people would say, "Well, tell us about that experience," and they were all expecting. I think I always wanted to deliver, like, here's a great story here and here's a great story there. But here's my takeaway is that people need to tell their stories. They need to tell their stories. And we think, well, they all sound alike. They're not all alike. People need to tell their stories, first of all. And the second, what I think is the most important, is they need to be listened to. They need to be heard. They need to be understood. And what I found, I thought, what I could sit here on this bench. Hey, I'm the boss. I can sit here as long as I want, and they can stay as long as they want and talk. And so I would ask questions, and I would really explore that. And what I found was that they would walk away just different because, and with every case, I would walk away different because I'd learned something new. I had learned something, or something had been reinforced. And what I loved about that was that once they were heard, um, their everything about their countenance changed because someone was listening to them and somebody cared. And I think that's really important. That's a big
Who
piece.
among us doesn't want to be valued or validated?
Right.
And to give somebody time, just the old adage says, you can never get it back.
Right.
And to think somebody of your stature spent 10 minutes with me because they wanted to know about me.
Yeah.
That's powerful
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I just grow from within when I get that opportunity and privilege myself
Right.
from either side of that bench. Okay.
Right. It was a cool experience. I'm so glad that you were a part of that.
Well, so was I.
Yeah.
It was special to get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Just the freedom that was provided, the openness, the rawness, the
it was raw, just transparency and rawness. You just, when you do that, and some people were nervous that there was a camera there, that they were being live streamed, and others were like energized by the fact that not only are the two of us sitting at this bench having a conversation, but a lot of other people could participate in viewing that and learn and grow from that as well. I think that's another very powerful piece of that.
That had to be a piece of that value.
Yeah.
For someone else to think my story is worthy of being told.
Right.
That's the case with all of us, but we're just not all convinced of that at this point.
Yeah, I had somebody sit down, I thought was interesting. He said, people who know me think X, Y, and Z about me. But let me tell you this, and I will tell you, he was kind of right when he said people think this about me. And I thought, hey, he's kind of right. That's kind of what I think. And by the time I was done listening to his story, I was so humbled because we have no idea. There's also often perceptions about people that become unhoused. And what I was so blown away by was there was so much to his story. 95% of his story I didn't know. But I thought, because of the 5% that I did know, I thought I knew the whole thing.
You were an expert on his life with 5%, right? Yeah, but when we hear pieces of that other 95, man, we just stand in awe.
Right. So what does that mean about everybody else that you meet? What does that mean about all the other people that you meet, and you make assumptions about their life? You see that 5%, and you go, oh, and you have all the answers, when in fact you don't have anything.
I have a poster board that I often use as an illustration, has a picture of Brianna DeBaptiste, whom our organization is named after, the young lady who disappeared back in 2014. You turn the poster board over, and it has a $50 size black spot. The entirety of the board is white, but that spot, I asked folks what they see. What do you think they see? They see the black spot. They see the blemish.
Yeah, right.
And that's what we're often looking at in 99+% of that board, Snow White.
Yeah.
But their attention is drawn to the black dot.
Well, whatever this was that happened in one situation or another, it's like, well, maybe they had it coming. Maybe that black dot is what led them to, and honestly, it's the whole picture. It's the whole picture that
Absolutely.
matters. And I was really humbled by as I heard those stories.
Yeah. Don't judge me by my blemish. I've
Right.
got them for
Right.
certain, but I'm much bigger than that blemish, and
Yeah.
it doesn't define me.
That's right.
Just as those we work with who have their struggles, the addiction does not define them.
Correct.
There's so much more than that.
Their moms, their dads, their sisters and brothers and cousins and friends. And I mean, there's so
that
many
list
things.
goes on forever.
It goes on forever. And what we want to do, there's this saying that I love, and I used to promote this saying a lot. And that is, if you, when people see a potato, what do they see? They see baked potato, mashed potatoes, French fries, all gratin potatoes. There's 100 different ways of treating a potato. So when you see a potato, you see 100 different things. And yet when you see a homeless person, you see a homeless person. You know what I'm saying? And so if you could look at a potato and see of all of its potential and not look at a human and also acknowledge potential,
Exactly.
there's a problem there. And I think
And it's not
we're all
with the
guilty.
other person, the problem.
Yeah.
It lies in you.
Yeah.
So, Rob, if finances were not an issue, if leadership was not an issue, what's the next step you would like to see the Christian Center be able to accomplish? Maybe not the next one, but one of.
Yeah, something in the future.
Yeah.
I think that's a great question. I think that what I would love to see is greater collaboration. I think that when you look statistically at the most successful programs of moving someone from being unhoused into that better life, it cannot happen. One organization is almost impossible for one organization to meet all those needs and all those services. And I think that if we became better at collaborating, I think we would see greater success. And not just in dealing with the unhoused, it's dealing with addictions, it's dealing with mental health, it's dealing with a lot of those things that float in that same universe. And so if we have greater collaboration, and I think we're getting there. I mean, when we would talk about 10 years ago, we made the decision that we were not going to launch any new programs that were not collaborations. So when we'd say, here's the program that we think is a great program, is a great idea, let's engage our partners, not thinking, oh, our partners might steal our great idea or whatever. We would engage our partners and go, what do you think the value of this is? How does it interact with what you do? And how does the greater good of moving this person, helping this person wrestle with their addictions and their housing situations and all that, how do all these pieces work together? And what happens is that we have partners who have said, we've been dying for somebody to come along and ask us to be their partner. Let's go. And
so what do you think it is that's keeping that collaboration from happening? You're kind of, dancing around a question I hadn't asked yet, but kind of bring that together.
Well, I think a big part of that is it's funding. And I have met with like our local foundations and different people like that. And I've encouraged them, make collaboration a part of your funding. That when somebody says, hey, we're out there, we're going to be in our silo, we're going to do our own things, we're Lone Rangers or whatever and do our things. I don't think that deserves the level of funding that people who go, no, I called them and I called them and we're together and I have an MOU that says we're going to partner in this thing because we're going to collaboratively believe this is a great idea. And I think that once the funding is directed in that way, I think that once people stop worrying about credit, you hear this all the time. Hey, what would happen? What could we do if no one cared about who got the credit? And I think that some organizations still do that. I mean, Randy, you and I are older guys. We don't care about credit. We care about doing the things that we feel are important to help our community. So, but a lot of people feel like, oh, I've got to build a reputation. I've got to build, so I need to make sure people see me doing X, Y, and Z. And the reality is things are just not as done effectively. And
you've already informed your opinion of me at my age, okay? It's either.
Am I right?
Am
I right? I have seen you. I've seen you in action, and you clearly care. You care more about the mission of a better life than then you care more about that than people patting you on the head and go, Randy's a swell guy.
Don't need that anymore. There may have been a day. If I'm honest, it's not today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to see people's lives touched, changed, saved. I want to see as many as we can become the individual Christ has made them to be.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I don't need to be in the way of that.
Yeah. That is a great point, because there are times when we have a plan, or we think we have a plan for someone, and God keeps interrupting. He keeps nudging us out of the way, and we see that. And it's, how do we just do what he wants us to do and then get out of his way and let him be God?
When God wants my help, he'll ask me, and it hasn't
Right.
happened yet. Okay, so we're all good with that. Rob, as we draw near the end here, how would you like to sum up your thoughts, your experiences, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. I haven't thought of that. So let me, one of the things, I told you this earlier, I had been, I was speaking to a group of pastors last week, and out of the blue, someone asked me a question that I'd never been asked. And that question was, why do you do this? I mean, you're an accountant, you're a finance guy. Why would you leave that, to go work with people on the street? And, I think for me, it struggled. It took me a minute. But, when I was young, I have an older brother that wrestled with addictions. He was primarily with alcohol and some other things. He's my half brother. And we share the same mother, but his father was an alcoholic, and his father was an alcoholic, and his father was an alcoholic. And my brother unfortunately had inherited that, I think. And so at 15 and 16 years old, my brother was a full-blown 4-alarm alcoholic at about 16 years of age. And I remember as a child, he was 8 years older than me, but I remember as a child thinking this: who's helping him? Who's on his side? I mean, as family we try, but there was nobody to come along with him. I mean, I was a child. I had a big family, but we were all kids. He was the oldest. He was encouraged in some of that behavior on his father's side, but there wasn't anybody intervening in his life. There was nobody intervening in his life for good and for that, and I will say this, that after 30 years of this behavior, and my brother in his mid-40s became sober and was a different man. And I think I think the biggest desire for me to see in what we do and what other people do is to come along people who are struggling and walk alongside with them and love them regardless, and help them to, to find their way through this. We talk about, you have this thing that we call the what we do tree, and it's, we search, we engage, we love like Jesus, we help people fight generational poverty and all this. But one line is we walk alongside. The line just says we walk alongside. And I love that we have that in there, because that's what people need. That's what they want their story. We've said that. They want to hear their story. We've said that. But, it's the walking alongside. And I think that, my brother met somebody later in his 40s who was willing to walk alongside him and go, you know what, we can whip this together. And so that's one of those things that we just need. We need people to be able to identify someone that is struggling, be able to come alongside and have that hard conversation with people we'd love. Because that's the other thing, is we're terrified of saying, man, I don't like the way this is heading, and let's talk. It's like, yeah, just keep doing your best and I'll stay out of your way. And I think and I don't know whether this is just me yammering on or it's making sense at all, but I think it's really important. And I think that what we do here, and I think that that's what I would ask for people. And if people want to support an organization that does this really well, man, give us a call.
You've just answered for yourself that question, what brought you into this.
Yeah.
It goes back to the suffering of your brother and your compassion for him.
Yeah.
And by seeing that, there had to be thousands of others
Absolutely.
who's there with them, for them. And when we start asking questions like that, God in his own way says, are you ready? I'll send you. And
Yeah.
we either have to say yes or no.
Yeah.
And whether you reached your brother or not, you're reaching others through
Yeah.
this and the efforts of the Christian Center, thanks to you and all the others who are in this. And I've met so many, and I
Yeah.
know they're not in it for the dollar. We've never spoken dollar, but I know it.
Yeah.
You know,
You're not going to get wealthy doing this.
okay,
but,
thank you.
Yeah.
They're in it from their hearts.
Yeah.
You see it in their handshake and just
Yeah.
the greeting.
Yeah.
Everybody matters in this place,
Right.
whether you're employed or you're here for the night or for a meal.
Yeah. You matter.
We invite you to come out of here and find that out for yourself. Rob, thank you. This has been appreciated. I know you're busy. Appreciate your
I
time.
always love this.
The work you do, the work that gets done here at the Christian Center and the Elios. Blessings. And I always like to tell people, and I'll say it to you and anybody that's a part of this or just listening, stay in the battle.
Yeah.
The answer's waiting on you, and it's not hidden. Open your eyes, your mind, your spirit, and your heart. Gonna guess you'll find it. Amen. God bless. Thank you.